Hello everybody. In this video, you're learning about multi-dimensional arrays in C#. The agenda of my video will be what are multi-dimensional arrays and understanding about multi-dimensional arrays with an example. So let's get straight into it. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a console application in Visual Studio. So let me just do that and I'll be right back. Okay, over here I've created a console application in Visual Studio and I've called it arrays in C#. Okay, first let me create an integer array. Okay, but before doing that, let's talk about what are multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, basically multi-dimensional arrays are also called rectangular arrays, and they can be either two-dimensional arrays or three-dimensional arrays. What I've discussed about is one-dimensional arrays. I've not discussed about two-dimensional or three-dimensional arrays. Okay, and multi-dimensional arrays are also in tabular form. That means in rows and columns. Okay, in matrix. So over here, let me create an integer array. That is a two-dimensional array. So how you create a one-dimensional array is by saying int and square brackets and then the array name and then so on, right? But while creating a two-dimensional array, you put in a comma, just like that. And if your array is three-dimensional array, you put in two commas. But our array is going to be a two-dimensional array. And then of course the name of our array, right? So let's say the name of our array is numbers. And then equals new int square brackets, and in here you have to specify the length of your array. So while using a single dimensional array, you just specify the length like that. But while using a two-dimensional array, you should specify the number of rows that are present in your array and even the number of columns. Okay, so it's not zero, of course. So we're gonna have three rows. So first you have to type in rows and then you have to type in columns. Three rows and two columns. Okay, and then curly brackets, and then inside of these curly brackets, one more pair of curly brackets. And inside of these curly brackets, you should have the value. So this is row 1, okay, and inside of here you should have column 1. Okay, so let's say something like 10 and then 20. Then the second row like that, let's say this one will have 30 and 40. So it's expecting one more row from us because here we have specified 3. So one more row like that. And you should have 2 columns inside of your row. So over here, 50 and 60. Okay, and then after this curly bracket here, you have to put in a semicolon. Okay. Now over here, this is one way of how you can create a two-dimensional array. Over here, you don't need to specify the length, just like how it's for a single-dimensional array. Okay? You just need to put in a comma, like that, and that's another way. Or else, we can just remove this part over here, and still we get no error. Okay? And I'll just bring that back and we can remove this. But the thing is that you have to put in the number of rows and the number of columns over here. Like that. Okay, or else you already saw that we will get an error, right? And over here in the next line you can say numbers square bracket the row. Okay, first specify the row and always start indexing at 0 and 0. Row 0, column 0. Okay, and assign to the value. You can do it like that. But I'm going to remove that. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna give this a value back. And over here, let's say our first row, we'll say 10 and 20 again. Second row, we'll say 30 and 40. And our last row, we'll have 50 and 60. Like that. Now let's take a look at how we can access an element inside of this array. So let's say console.writeLine numbers, that is our array name, square bracket, and inside of here specify the row. Let's say we want to print out this 30 or let's say 40. Okay, so that is on row 1. Okay, remember this, it always starts indexing from 0. And column 1 also. Okay, like that. And let's go ahead and run the program. Just click Ctrl plus F5 there. Okay, the board has started. As you can see, the output is correct 40. So I'll just minimize that. Yeah, the output is 40 and that's exactly the same that we expected. Now let me explain how these two-dimensional arrays work by opening Excel. Okay, here I've opened Excel, and now over here our value or multi-dimensional array, we have already declared that, and these are the values. Just assume that. Okay, like these are the actual values from the Visual Studio window here. So 10 till 60, right? Okay, 10, 20, 30. Oh, wait, 30 is on row 2. 30, 40, 50, and at last 60. So over here, this 10 where it is stored is on row 0. And this 30 is on row 1. Okay, and this 50 is on row 2. Not also right there, 2. Okay, so these are the rows. Okay, and now this 10, this 30, and this 50 are on column 0. So column 0, not row 0. Column 0 and column 1. Okay, inside of column 1, it is 20, 40, and 60. Okay, so that is how these two-dimensional arrays work. Okay, I'm not going to explain about three-dimensional arrays in this video or in this course. You can just try them out by yourself. Okay, open Visual Studio back. Okay, you just need a double comma here. Okay, now for example, you want to change some of the values that are inside of this two-dimensional array. So in order to do that, over here on top of the console.writeLine method, let's say number, that is our array name. Numbers, that is our array name. Square bracket, the row. So we want to update this 40 and change that to 100. So 1 and 1, right? So just copy this from here, row 1 and even column 1. And let's say we want to update it and change it to 100. Semicolon. Now when we run our program, we got the output as 40 and this time we get it as 100. Now let me show you how you can access all the elements of an array by using for loops. Okay, over here I'll just say for and hit a tab. So for an integer, let's say row, and row should be less than 3. That is the number of rows that are present inside of our array. And then enter. And then inside of this for loop, we're going to have another for loop. Okay, for int, not a row this time, but a column. And one more thing, column should be less than 2. Okay, that is a number of rows, columns that are inside of this two-dimensional array. Now let me explain this code to you. This first for loop over here is to iterate through the rows inside of this array. So over here I've assigned rows to 0. Row to 0. And here row should be less than 3. That's because these rows inside the array start indexing from 0. Okay? So we want to only do it till 0, 1, and 2. Okay? And then at the last we're saying row plus plus. Inside of that for loop we have another for loop. So this is for iterating through the columns, and we have 2 columns inside of this row. Okay, so column equal to 0, and columns should be less than 2. So we only need like 0 and 1. So that makes 2 columns. And then at the last column plus plus. Over here, the console.writeLine method, numbers and square brackets. And inside of these, you have to pass in the row first. So that is why we have this variable row. Okay, so let's just copy that and paste that over here. And then the column. So this variable, column. Okay, so here in the first iteration, the value of row is going to be 0. So first it will check statement 1, that is the variable where we declare the variable, and then the condition. If this condition is true, then it's going to execute the code inside of here. So at first this is 0, so this condition is true. Okay, and then we'll execute this code that is inside of this for loop. So now this is another for loop that is inside of this for loop, right? So here for int column, so it will check this statement first. Okay, and then it will check this condition, column, if column is less than 2, and that will be true in the first iteration because again column is going to be 0. And then it will execute the code inside of here, that is console.writeLine. We're saying numbers, and inside of here we are passing in row, that is this variable that is here. In the first iteration, again it's 0, and this column over here in the first iteration, that is also 0. And then now we'll go to this incrementation part or statement 3. Okay, and we'll execute that. Now again we'll check the condition and we'll execute the code until this condition is going to be false. Okay, and then if this condition is false, it will break out of this loop and then it will jump right here, row plus plus. Okay, so we'll add 1 to row. Again, check the condition, execute the code until this condition is false. Okay, now let's go ahead and run the program by clicking Ctrl plus F5. Just bring this down. It prints out 10, that is our first value, 20, that is our second value, 30, that is our third value, and 40, that is our fourth value, and so on. Okay, go ahead and close this. Now I hope you have understood about multi-dimensional arrays in C#. So that's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like and share this video. Please subscribe to my channel for more. Goodbye till the next video.